Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. Today I would like to tell you a story entitled Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there lived in a village a little country girl. Her mother and her grandmother were fond of her. Her mother had a little Red Riding Hood made for her. It suited the girl that everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother made some cakes and said to her, "Go, my dear, and see how your grandmother is doing. I heard she has been very ill. Take her a cake and this little part of butter. And remember, don't talk to any strangers along your way." Little Red Riding Hood set out immediately to go to her grandmother who lived in another village. As she was going through the wood, she met a wolf who had a very great mind to eat her up. He asked her, "Where is she going?" "I'm going to see my grandmother and carry this dessert," answered Little Red Riding Hood. "Does she live far off?" said the wolf. "It is beyond that mill you see there, at the first house in the village." "Well," said the wolf, "it's a pleasure to meet you. Take care. See you soon." The wolf ran as fast as he could, take the shortest path, and the little girl took the roundabout way, entertaining herself by gathering nuts, running after butterflies, and gathering bouquets of little flowers. It was not long before the wolf arrived at the old woman's house. He knocked at the door. "Knock, knock." "Who's there?" "Your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood," replied the wolf, adjusting his voice. "I brought you a cake." "Come in, my dear," replied the grandmother. The wolf put the bobbin and the door opened. And then he immediately fell upon the old woman and ate her all up in a moment. He then shut the door too and got into grandmother's bed. Expecting Little Red Riding Hood, who came some time afterward and knocked at the door. "Knock, knock." "Who's there?" Little Red Riding Hood, hearing the big voice of the wolf, was at first afraid, but believing her grandmother had a cold and was ill, answered, "It is your grandchild, Little Red Riding Hood, who has brought you a cake and this little part of butter." "Oh, come in, my dear, come in." Little Red Riding Hood put the bobbin and the door opened. The wolf, seeing her come in, said to her, hiding himself under the bedclothes, Put the cake and the little part of butter upon the stool and come get into bed with me." Little Red Riding Hood took off her clothes and got into bed. She was amazed to see how her grandmother looked in her nightclothes and said to her, "Grandmother, what big arms you have! All the better to help you with, my dear." "Grandmother, what big legs you have! All the better to run with, my child." "Grandmother, what big ears you have! All the better to hear with, my child." "Grandmother, what big eyes you have! All the better to see with, my child." "Grandmother, what big teeth you have! All the better to eat you up with." And saying this word, this wicked wolf fell upon Little Red Riding Hood and ate her all up. The end.